Some watches cost a few thousand. Some cost a house. And then there are watches that sell for more than $30 million. And no, that's not hype. That is real money changing hands. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down the most expensive watches in the world in 2026. From record-breaking auction pieces to one-of-one creations that billionaires fight over. We're talking real prices, real stories, and what actually makes these watches worth more than private jets. And trust me, by the end, one of these is going to make everything else on this list look cheap. So let's start with number 1, the Patek Philippe Nautilus Tiffany Blue, reference number 5711. And of course we have to start with Patek Philippe, because when it comes to the most expensive watches in the world, they just keep showing up. This Nautilus wasn't supposed to be a $6.5 million watch, retailed for around $52,000. That's it. But then something happened. Scarcity, hype, and that Tiffany blue dial collided all at once. Only 170 pieces were ever made, marking the long partnership with Tiffany & Co. And that tiny cosign logo at 6 o'clock? That's what changed everything. At auction in New York, it sold for $6.5 million for a steel watch. Let that sink in. And here's why it matters for this list. This isn't expensive because of gold or diamonds. It's expensive because people decided it is. Cultural value, brand power, and timing all hitting at once. By 2026, it's still sitting at around $5 to $7 million, depending upon provenance. Steel watch, priced like a mansion. And honestly, this is the watch that has proved hype can be just as powerful as craftsmanship. Number 2, Vacheron Constantin, reference number 57260. Well, now we go from hype to pure insanity. This is Vacheron Constantin flexing at a level that most brands can't even attempt. The 57260 isn't just expensive. It's the most complicated mechanical watch ever made. 57 complications. That's not marketing language, that is a world record. We're talking calendars for different religions, star charts, multiple time systems, things that most people won't even understand, let alone use. It took 8 years to build, 3 master watchmakers, nearly 3,000 components. And the final result? A watch so big that it's basically a mechanical universe that you can hold. Estimated value? Around $8 million. But here's the reality. This isn't priced like a watch. It's priced like a one-of-one scientific instrument. More machine than watch. Pure horology peak. And this is where you realize something. Some watches are made to be worn. And some are made to prove what's even possible. Number 3, FP Journe FFC prototype. Now this is where things get weird, in the best way possible, because FP Journe doesn't play by normal rules, and this watch proves it. The idea came from a conversation with Francis Ford Coppola. Yeah, that Coppola. He wanted a watch that tells time using a human hand. So instead of hands or numbers, you get a mechanical hand that opens and closes its fingers to display the hour. It sounds insane. It looks even crazier. And somehow it works. This one-of-one prototype sold for $10.755 million in 2025. Not because of materials, not because of diamonds, but because it's something that no one else even thought of building. And that's the key for this list. When you reach this level, originality becomes more valuable than anything else. Not a watch, pure creative statement piece. And honestly, this is where watchmaking stops being about time and it starts becoming art. Number 4, Patek Philippe stainless steel, reference number 1518. And just when you think you've seen peak Patek Philippe, it shows up again and raises the bar even higher. This is the reference 1518. And if you actually understand what you're looking at, this might be the most important watch on this entire list. Back in 1941, this became the first ever perpetual calendar chronograph produced in series. Not a one-off, not a concept, a production watch that basically rewrote what wristwatches could be. Now here's where it gets ridiculous. Most of these were made in gold, but this one, stainless steel. Only 4 known examples exist. And that's why in 2025, one of them sold for $17.6 million at auction. Same idea as the Tiffany Nautilus, but way more serious. This isn't hype, this is history. This is the blueprint for every complicated watch that came after it. And in today's market, you're looking at roughly $15 to $18 million depending upon condition and provenance. Not just rare, foundational to modern watchmaking. If you're trying to understand why collectors go crazy, this is the kind of piece that explains everything. Number 5, Rolex Paul Newman Daytona, reference number 6239. Now we switch gears from technical history to pure cultural power. Because this isn't just a Rolex, this is the Rolex, the Paul Newman Daytona. Here's the brutal truth. This exact watch wasn't even popular when it came out. The dial design? People didn't want it. It sat in stores. And then time did its thing. This specific piece was owned and worn by Paul Newman himself, gifted by his wife, worn during his racing years. That's not marketing, that is a real story. And that's why, in 2017, it sold for $17.8 million. Not because it's the most complicated, not because it's made of rare materials, because it's his. That inscription on the back, "Drive carefully, me," that's what turned a watch into something way bigger. Proof that story can outweigh everything else. And this is where most people get it wrong. At this level, value isn't about the specs anymore. It's about meaning. Number 6, Jacob & Co. Billionaire Watch. And now we leave logic behind completely, because Jacob & Co. doesn't care about subtlety. And this watch proves it. The Billionaire Watch is exactly what it sounds like. No hidden meaning, no quiet luxury, just raw, unapologetic excess. 260 carats of emerald cut diamonds. Fully set. Case, bracelet, everything. Underneath all that, there is still a skeletonized tourbillon movement. Almost like they're reminding you that this is technically still a watch. But let's be honest here. You don't buy this to check the time. You buy this to make a statement that most people can't even comprehend. Valued at around $18 million, depending upon customization. And yeah, Floyd Mayweather owns one, which tells you exactly who this is for. Not horology. Pure status weapon. And this is the extreme end of this list, where watches stop being about craftsmanship and they become a direct display of power. Number 7, Patek Philippe Henry Grave Super Complication. And somehow Patek Philippe shows up yet again. But this time, we're not talking about hype, steel sports models, or modern auctions. This is where it all started getting serious. The Henry Grave Super Complication isn't even a wristwatch. It's a pocket watch. Commissioned in 1925 by banker Henry Graves Jr., who was basically competing with another billionaire to own the most complicated watch ever made. And back then, no computers, no CAD, no CAD, just human skill. It took 8 years to complete, 920 components, 24 complications, including a celestial chart of the New York night sky, customized for Graves himself. Let that sink in. This wasn't just a watch, it was personal astronomy on your wrist, well, pocket. In 2014, it sold for about $24 million. And here's why it matters for this list. It held the title of the most complicated watch in the world for decades. Decades. Old school engineering, still dominating the modern records. This is the kind of piece that makes you realize today's watchmaking isn't ahead, it's just different. Number 8, Breguet Grand Complication Marie Antoinette number 160. Now this is less about watchmaking and more about obsession. Because Breguet was given a task in 1783. Build the most complicated watch ever made. With no budget, no deadline, no limits. The watch was commissioned for Marie Antoinette. Now here's the twist. She never even saw it. It took over 40 years to complete. Finished in 1827, long after her execution. That alone would make it legendary. But then you add in everything else. Over 800 components, multiple complications, automatic winding, even a thermometer. And if that wasn't enough, it was stolen in 1983 and recovered decades later. So yeah, this isn't just a watch, it is history, it's drama, tragedy, all packed into one object. Estimated value? Around $30 million. Not just expensive, myth-level status. This is what happens when watchmaking collides with royal history and refuses to be forgotten. And number 9, Patek Philippe Grandmaster Chime, reference number 6300A010. Here it is, the moment where Patek Philippe basically reminds everyone who's in charge. Again, the Grandmaster Chime is already insane as a concept. 20 complications, dual dials, over 1,300 components. This is not a watch that you figure out in a day. It's something that you study. But this specific piece, that's where things escalate. It's the only one ever made in stainless steel. Not gold, not platinum, steel. Created for a charity auction in 2019, and it sold for $31.2 million. That made it the most expensive wristwatch ever sold. And here's the pattern that you should be noticing by now if you haven't. Steel should not be the most valuable material on this list. But somehow, when Patek does it, it becomes the most desirable. Complexity plus rarity plus story equals record-breaking price. This isn't just expensive, it's a statement. It's a reminder that at the highest level of watchmaking, Patek doesn't compete, it sets the ceiling. So now you've seen it all. From steel watches that are selling for millions, to pieces that took decades to build, to watches that aren't even about time anymore. They're about power, history, and pure flex. And here is the uncomfortable truth that most people won't say. At this level, you're not paying for the watch. You're paying for rarity, story, and the fact that almost nobody else can have it. So now I want to hear from you. What's your pick from this list? And more importantly, which one do you actually think is worth the price? Let me know. Drop it in the comments. And if you want the next video to save you from making a bad watch purchase, instead of just dreaming about the $1 million ones, well then hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.